I hope we will deliver one of the most interesting sessions, especially because it's the last session for the day. Many thanks to Abu Dhabi Global Market and the organizers of this Finance Week. This is amazing event already, and congratulations. And I have a fantastic lineup of speakers with me today, because we will discuss the future of fintech. As you all heard, first we will explore where we are now, and then what is our ideal goal, and of course how to get there. It is my honor to have with me today Gerard Moussa, head of UAE and MENA expansion at Stripe, Samir Punya, co-founder at Spades, and Pratik Vahi, Chief Commercial Officer at Biobank, or Biobank, please. I will now invite them to present more about themselves and about their companies, and of course to give us their overview of the state of fintech sector at the moment. So in order to talk about the future of fintech, let's first see where we are now. So what's your opinion on the current state of the fintech sector in the UAE and globally, and then tell us more about your company within that.
Sure. Thank you, Tamara. So Stripe, I hope most of you have heard of Stripe. Right? So we built the infrastructure for the internet payment infrastructure. We launched in the UAE in April 2021. Right? So we saw a lot of potential, and we still do in the region. Globally, we've been active since 2011. Right, building this payment infrastructure and helping organizations. And today we have two of our users, Spades and Biobank, on stage with us. So fintech, obviously, it's been around, it's been a buzzword initially, and now it is, I guess, it's established itself as a finance technology space where we have a lot of players, right? A lot of successful players, a lot of players who have obviously as well over the years, we've seen different kind of acquisitions and mergers. But it's a space that's still, I guess, in the early stages, and there's a lot of potential, right? As Stripe, we've seen that, right? We've expanded, as I mentioned before, into the region. We're across 40 plus countries globally, and we go wherever there is the potential, and there's still a lot of, I would say, untapped potential out there.
We will go into more details because you have a global presence, and I'm interested about the peculiarities of this region. But let's first hear from Samir about Spades and his view on the market.
So Spades is a relatively new company. Been live for about 10 months, just over 10 months. What do? We complete the last mile in a restaurant, in a dine-in restaurant. So when you want to bill, you no longer have to call for a waiter. You scan a QR code or tap a QR code with NFC. It calls the bill in real time from the restaurant POS. You split, you tip, and you pay using Stripe. And that's it. And so in less than 10 seconds, you're done. And that was the gap that we tried to fill up. During the pandemic, when people were still scanning the QR code for a menu, but still had to pull out their wallet and still pay for, by handing the card over to pay for the bill. So we solved that whole contactlessness. The future of fintech.
We're on the current state now, so I want you to. What inspired you to start your company? What state of the market did you saw in the sector that gave you confidence that it's the right thing to go ahead?
Well, two things. Like I briefly mentioned, one of the things was because people were scanning for a menu, but then at the end when they wanted to go and pay, they still had to call a waiter and hand over their card physically, or get them to bring an EDM machine and tap it and things like that. So it defeated the whole purpose of being truly contactless, right? And so we found that as a gap, that how could we fill that, right? And then with the advent of just accepting a lot of new payment types, especially new digital payment types, right? Because of what the pandemic brought, we felt that this was something that we could really fulfill across the medium in the dine-in space.
Okay.
And then with the influx and the outflux of people just rushing when they started relaxing the rules, we're like, why not? People were still, the habit was still there to scan. So we just capitalized on that and just kept on going on that, right? And then it got validated by another company that actually is our North Star. It's called Sunday, and they're in Europe. So they did it in Europe. They were the fastest, largest seed round ever raised. And then they raised their Series A. They moved to the States, so we said, okay, we did our ethnographic and we came here and did it over
Okay.
here.
So it's a business model that obviously works, and passionate entrepreneurs. We were just talking before coming on stage. He said only 10 months, but it's already 400 restaurants in the UAE. Give me your numbers just to explain to our audience,
Well,
the wisdom
you've
that.
been very kind. Yeah, so we got about 400 restaurants here in the UAE. And then we've expanded into Saudi Arabia, of course. And that was in August when we expanded over there. That's about 100 over there. And then as of about a month and a half ago, we moved into Singapore to capitalize
Okay.
in Asia.
So this is a sign of the current state of fintech. It's promising for entrepreneurs who want to put in the work, right? And you said you 40 countries is
40 plus.
yeah. So we will come back to this wisdom for the comparison, for the learnings from other markets too. But now I want to hear from Pratik Wahi, Chief Commercial Officer at Wayo Bank. Tell me your opinion on the current state of the fintech market and about the Wayo Bank.
So I think from a digital competitive point of view, I think UAE is number 1 in the Arab world and number 13 globally. So it has a great competitive advantage over there. I think from a population point of view, also there were some reports that said 50% of the population is below the age of 25. They're extremely mobile. Internet connections here are great. So from a adoption and readiness point of view, obviously the region is really ready to kind of grab that change that's there. From an ecosystem point of view, the government is doing great things between ADGM and DIFC. The financial services they provide for startups is fantastic. So the ecosystem here is really strong. From a WIO perspective, we are the first digital platform bank. We have basically 3 key pillars that we're kind of looking at. We have digital banking apps, we've got embedded finance, and we're looking at banking as a service. So these are the 3 key pillars that we're going to be driving, essentially from a strategy point of view. We've already embarked on the first one. So we've launched the WIO business app in September of this year. So we are well on our way. We're catering to freelancers, startups, small and medium-sized SMEs. And the reception has been pretty good. We've gone beyond banking, so we're trying to differentiate ourselves from the traditional banks. We've gone beyond banking. We've integrated with Stripe as one example, where we offer our consumers to onboard on the Stripe quite seamlessly. So that's where we're at, and it's looking good.
Okay, interesting. Let's now talk about the ideal future. What would be the outcome that you want for your companies? And then let's go how to fill in that gap from now and then, and how the ecosystem can help you with that. What are your plans for?
So today in the UAE, we're still, we've been here for a year and a half. We're still at the beginning of the journey, because there are a lot of companies, merchants, users in the UAE who are looking at obviously starting in the UAE and then expanding globally. So an example with Spades, at Singapore, as they expanded, we went hand in hand with them. So they're leveraging Stripe across one of our markets. And hopefully as they grow, they'll keep on leveraging Stripe. So in the markets currently we're looking at servicing merchants, we call them our users, to help them expand, and then build on top. So focus on your business. Spades business is not fintech, right? Their business is not in payments. This is where we come in. They focus on the user experience, right? On making it easy. Same thing with WIO. Yes, they're a digital bank. They have a lot of different, as mentioned by Pratik, pillars, and under those pillars offerings. But the stuff that we do well at Stripe, let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's try focus on building that out. And hopefully we'll see more and more users in the region, right? Leverage us to grow globally, as well as to have an in-depth offering in terms of fintech services.
So this is a good example of a good piece of advice, basically, on how to grow both an ecosystem and your own company. Combine your strengths, right, among entrepreneurs around you. Samir, what's your ideal outcome, and how do you plan to do that?
Well, our ideal outcome would be for Stripe to buy us out.
Okay.
No, but I mean, jokes aside, it's, I think, in a growing company like ours, it's the adoption, right? It's not just about signing up number of restaurants and making it sound like, oh, that's an impressive number and things like that. It's got to work, right? It's, you know, like as Steve Jobs used to say, design is not what it looks like, design is how it works. And that's the biggest focus that we have right now, and we're trying to, while we're trying to grow the company and of course the number of clients that we have, merchants that we have, along with it, we're also trying to drive the adoption that it is adding value to the end customer but even to the staff from an operational perspective. And I think that's our, right now, that's our biggest challenge, to get them to understand that. We thought when we first started that this will be a no-brainer, right? You would just think, you know, hey, you're already scanning for a menu, well, why don't you just pay, right?
Okay.
And you'll be amazed that not everybody thinks like that, right? And it's about that whole education and drive. So one thing we're doing is showing the end customer, but then we also looked at it from a staff perspective very quickly. And what we did is we introduced tips, where in this part of the world, tipping is not a culture, right? It's getting there, you know, with the mindset change, but it's not there. So by driving tips and things like that, we're recognizing the team for the effort that they do, the wait staff, and so we brought them together, and we're trying to crack that how do we really drive that adoption and that value chain, convenience that we bring.
This is interesting. I hope that promising actually future entrepreneurs among you are listening. These are basically the challenges that you encounter on a daily basis from at least end user perspective. But we'll go back to challenges more now. Pratik, what's your ideal outcome?
So I think for Vio, you know, we're a digital platform. So I think for us, the biggest thing is we want to challenge the entire existing operating model for banks, right? So we want to disrupt that banking model. We want to change the way people consume financial products. We want to make it easier for people to access finances, use finances. So in a sense, today customers need to walk into a bank or call up a bank to get their products and services. We want to embed these services within their usual apps that they use, so that's more accessible and they can, you know, use it in their day-to-day kind of life. So the idea is to disrupt that and, you know, move banking into an everyday approach rather than have it a more pull approach where customers need to go and apply and, you know, get that done. So I think for us, the way we're currently set up, being completely cloud native, with a lot of API access, we could really leverage all the partnership ecosystem that we have to kind of drive this entire agenda. So I think eventually that's the final outcome that we're looking at.
I do. Thank you. So basically we have enabling other merchants to do what they do best, and then entrepreneurs basically driving adoption, doing what they do best and overcoming all the challenges. And that same, I think, applies to you, changing our habits and our approach to financial services and how we consume banking services, if I understand correctly. So what are the main challenges that we heard a few, that a fintech entrepreneur in an ecosystem, this one is one of the more advanced ones, but in general are facing. And then I want to also talk about the challenges that you encounter from those who are supposed to be your supporters, being stakeholders, being investors, being regulators, so that we send them a message or maybe, you know, main things to think about when it comes to supporting you going forward. Gerard, tell me about what would be the main challenges? What's between you and the innovation that you want to introduce?
So I mean, at Stripe, we've built a lot over the years, right? And I think the main challenge in the region we're facing is the larger users. They talk about customer experience, but when they come to put the dollars, right, where the words are, it's very difficult. I mean, payment is seen as a cost, right? So they want to reduce the cost, but at the same time, they want to enhance the user experience during checkout. So how many people have checked out of any platform today, right? So everyone here has bought something in the last 24 hours. How was the experience? That's a big focus globally, right? And even more so here. But then when it comes to actually implement the customer experience, go, oh no, I didn't expect it's going to cost this much. We're just going to go with the cheapest option. So that's one challenge that we're trying, obviously, to educate the market. And for example, the giving movement, we have a case study published. when they went with Stripe, their conversion rates increased by 25%. So this is a big, and the whole customer experience. So there's intangible that goes in there. So back to the point that the challenge, I guess currently is still the awareness, but we're in it for the long run. Right? Already, we've seen a lot of early adopters. On the mid-sized small businesses, they're all just going for the customer experience. They want to differentiate themselves from the big players. So that's one of, I guess, the main challenge. Otherwise, in the market, we're seeing a strong uptake for our offerings. Right? You can literally go, and this is where Spades and we have experience. You can go on Stripe. If you have your own business, in 5 to 10 minutes, you can be signed up and ready to accept payments, right? And you can test it if you have your trade license and Emirates ID on your phones right now. So we've really built that platform. We were recognized by Fast Company just last month on one of the most innovative fintech companies in the region because of this platform. So we're working hand in hand to ensure that we're able to overcome these challenges and improve the overall payments infrastructure and the availability of those services.
So for now, your biggest challenge is awareness of the end users.
So exactly, right? From the regulators, from obviously the different partners we have out there, we're seeing a lot of, open arms, right, being welcomed. Unfortunately, and it's not only just for Stripe, we know a lot of our partners, competition, frenemies, are getting the same attention from the UAE.
Okay.
There's a lot of interest in ensuring we succeed, right? As long as obviously we do the right things. So there's a lot of support. Can things move faster? It's always the case, right? But at the same time, we're working very closely, right, on getting the support we need. So this is really refreshing, right? Coming in here and having that, open arms policy, right? Let's support you. How can we support you? Within, obviously, the regulators, there's obviously appetite to help drive and help companies like ourselves grow.
Could be operational with Spades. And one of the biggest challenges we faced was KYC. It was a tedious manual process and things like that. So with Stripe Connect and that whole onboarding that they have, it did make our life a lot easier. So we were able to stay true to one of the objectives that we have, or one of the USPs that we preached about. And the challenge is to continue on being true to your USPs, right? That yes, you will be able to pay within a matter of seconds and not have to wait for the bill to come back and forth and things like that. That it will be seamless and it won't break on you, right? That's the biggest thing, especially when you're in the payment space. Trust means everything because it's money, right? So if you lose it in the first one, you lose that customer. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to have that customer try again. So keeping those USPs strong and things like that is one of the biggest challenges that we have. From an investor perspective, because I have, they're always on us. It's always challenging the status quo. It's no longer about, dine-in space was just one area that we started in, but it's looking at what we can do more.
It's
how can we co-create
more,
and continuously challenge the status quo. And my ex-boss is in the audience right now from Visa, and we used to always do this, that is to look at it and go, how can we do it differently? And we do have, I won't go into details too much, but we're not just in the dine-in space. We're in hotels. We're powering loyalty. We're powering now even parking, parking areas and so forth. So we've stepped into different domains, but still staying core to the domain that complements the F&B, the food tech. And so by doing that, we're fulfilling the requirement, the challenge that is given by the investors. That what are you going to do more? How are you going to keep yourself more relevant? And always ahead of the game. It's one step ahead of the game, and that's what we're doing.
Okay, so this is one way if you need to expand, to maybe think vertically before.
Or horizontally, the other way. Both ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Pratik, what about you? How do you remain committed to innovation while also taking care of this revenue-making side of the business?
So I think, given the way we are set up, right, the whole cloud-native approach that we've taken, we believe in a lot of partnerships, right? So we want to develop a very strong ecosystem of partnerships and try and leverage that and embed ourselves into those partnerships and add value through those initiatives. So I think as we go along, I think for us it'll be super critical to kind of develop innovative products, and we'll have a lot of opportunities with that in this ecosystem. There are a lot of new fintechs emerging that we can partner with. There are a lot of traditional players as well that are looking to embed finance into their journeys that we're partnering up with. So to try to get the non-financial players into the financial space and kind of then monetize those opportunities as well. In addition to look at other monetizing opportunities, like you have things like subscription fees, or you have other opportunities to monetize your customers. So I think that's the approach that we're probably going to take on balancing between innovation and revenue.
So how do you approach it on a day-to-day basis? What do you do with that big dilemma?
So it's not really a dilemma, right? That's in the DNA. The approach we've taken is a partnership approach, right? So we want to do platforms. We're trying to partner with platforms. We're trying to partner with the larger ecosystem. So we've got partnerships with like Wise, with Stripe, and we're trying to leverage that entire ecosystem to drive that agenda.
Okay, so one thing is it's not dilemma, as he said. You have to take it both sides always, to keep in mind both sides, to remain innovative and as you said, committed to the core values that brought you to the sector, but at the same time listen to other voices. We have just enough time to give them maybe each of you 3 pieces of advice to fintech entrepreneurs who are maybe in this market and are starting out or maybe having some trouble, something that we haven't mentioned if possible, or some approach that we haven't mentioned. What would be your tips for fintech entrepreneurs and that you can also follow? And also maybe to the market itself, what would you think are good things to keep in mind going forward for this really to be the future of fintech in the region?
Yeah, I can start. I think I quote Steve Jobs a lot because I really like the way he had his approach to things from design approach. One thing he used to say was stay hungry, stay foolish. And that's so true, right? Don't drink your own Kool-Aid. It's not going to really, you got to be, and by staying foolish and looking at it from the end customer's point of view and reversing back is important. We get carried away thinking that we know everything, and honestly, I thought that, and I learned a lot. The other thing is, constantly, I mean, like I said, the investors are always asking us to challenge ourselves and what more we can do, right? And and that's what we do, is we literally put ourselves in the shoes of people. A simple example is how many times we've gone out on a great night, right? With a bunch of friends, had a few too many drinks, and then you're left with the bill, right? And you're looking at this 3,000, 4,000 dirham bill, and you're going, oh my God. Yeah, the guys are, we'll pay you back. It doesn't happen most of the time, right? And you're left with this bill, and you go, well, how am I going to? So, one of the things we introduced was something called Eat Now, Pay Later. So it's a BNPL play, and you can offset your thing by 4 equal payments. It came because I was observing in a restaurant, and somebody did have that problem. I still remember the bill being 4,700 dirhams, and some odd dirham. And he goes, oh my God, I wish I could have just offset this. And I just happened to hear that, and I was like, okay, this could be something. And then we played it, and we introduced it. So it's those little things that matter. And if you can make those little things better, it does make you a success in any field of fintech that you're in, or startup, or prop tech, or anything you think of.
I have to say that rarely does it happen that I have an entrepreneur, not only on stage, but in the interview, give a piece of advice and then actually give a factual story that he is really following that piece of advice. Stay hungry, stay foolish. So if you're an entrepreneur and open your ears, he was sitting in a restaurant and he was still thinking about his business and what else, and observing what people are happening. So this is how you build great businesses, but also how you enjoy what you do, I believe. Thank you for sharing this story. This is a great story. What about you, Gerard?
So I mean, obviously I'm not an entrepreneur, right? I mean, but we
entrepreneur. We call it entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur. So we work with a lot of startups in the region globally, and I've been fortunate enough to sit with a few of them. So I think one piece of advice is feel free to reach out to your partners. I'm back to Pratik's point, right? They partnered with us and others. We see things, I guess, from a different lens. We have a global view. Right? We have access to trends. We might not be able to share the specific details, but I've been sitting with a lot of our users, their founders, their CEOs, and even with the Pratik and Samir here, and across the table, right, we share ideas, and so we have this information that we can share. We can help. We can look at it from a different perspective. So I've been sitting with some fintech players in UAE, and they're saying, we want to do this, we want to do that. I'm going, why? I mean, and then they say, okay, our customers want this. Do you have the resources? No, we don't, but we're going to figure it out. So another advice is to focus, right? So to really build out the base, understand what your users want. Not every request, and since I'm also heading up sales, not every request your customer asks for, just go out and build it. The minute you build it, and you come back to the customer saying, oh yeah, but it's not a priority. So qualification is very important, right? Entrepreneurs, as you're out there selling, right? Qualify. Customers, users will always ask for something, right? But then, what about what you have today? The last one is I mentioned this before, don't reinvent the wheel. So if you look at Stripe, we've really invested billions of dollars, right? I don't know if some of you know, we were valued at $95 billion last year, right? The highest valued US pre-IPO company. We're still pre-IPO, right? So we've built the infrastructure. Let's take Spades, Wio. They've went and leveraged our Connect platform, right? So we've built that out, right? We have different platforms. So, and it's not only applying to Stripe. As you're out there, check if there's something out there already, that someone you can partner with and leverage their technology, their platform, right? Whether it's in Fintech or others.
It's really a sign of probably close to mature ecosystem when your success is part of their success, and it's really like growing together. So thank you for pointing that out throughout your speech. And what about you? We're ending with you, Pratik.
So maybe I'll just sum up what you said. So I think
please.
three things is, I think one is probably better to leverage partners, platforms. Don't try and build everything yourself. Buy where you can. It's extremely time consuming and drains capacity to build everything. And then lastly, to stay with your core, right? To kind of identify your core strengths and then keep and focus on the cause. So I think that kind of sums up what each of them do. So that's, I think, the three key pillars to kind of succeed.
Yes.
That's our North Star.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to Girard, Samir, Pratik, and thank you to Abu Dhabi Global Market and Finance Weeks for having us today. I hope we share some actionable insights for all of you that you can implement today already. If not, please feel free to reach out. Partnership is a way forward. Please be open and count on success of each other. Thank you all once again, and we'll make sure to follow up on this. Thank you, everyone.
And this is the last session, right? So everyone can go have drinks?
Yeah, and they can use your platform to pay after.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jamal.